Hari Om, everybody. Welcome back. Let's get started. Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Shrunvannuti Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinama Vityavat Om Ganeshaya Namaha Om Saraswatyai Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Bruhaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ratam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadbhaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Bhaktaram Om Shanti 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 Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Istuštuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitayadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no bruhaspatir dadatu Om Shanti 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 Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Vagishadya Sumanasaha Sarvartanam Upakrame Yamnatva Kritakrityasyuhu Tam Namami Gajananam Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupine Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet vyasam vasishtanaptaram shakte pautramakalmasham parasharatmajam vande shukatatam taponidhim व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि सद्गुरुं तं नमामि समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् यस्य सन्निधिमात्रेण सर्वे शिष्याश्च सेवकाः कर्मक्षेत्रे प्रवर्तन्ते चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम् चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम् चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम्. We have come a long way. Back in September, we started with Shreya Preya Viveka. This is the penultimate of the lecture series. We looked at several aspects of our culture, our Adhyatma Samskriti, our Bhautika Samskriti, in general in pursuit of happiness. We learnt about the classification of our Shastras. We looked at Shruti Smriti in the beginning. Today I will cover a little bit of Itihasa and Purana. We looked at Vedas as the basis of our culture. There are three subdivisions of Vedas: Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Gnana Kanda. Their purpose is mainly Chitta Shuddhi, purification of mind, Chitta Ekagrata, concentration of the mind, leading to the knowledge of the self. I want to recap quite a bit today because we are almost coming to our destination on this series. Then we learnt about Karma Siddhanta, which is the basis of reincarnation, how to divinize our actions, how to turn karma to karma yoga. Then we learned how to divinize our emotions, bhakti, making the mind single pointed to gain chitta ekagrata. Then we learnt about Gnana Kanda, the knowledge portion of the Vedas, also called as Upanishads, called as Vedanta, which has been the subject matter of our study. We learnt about Prasthana Trayi, Shruti Prasthana, Smriti Prasthana, Nyaya Prasthana. We learned through the story of the four Mahavakyas leading to the ultimate reality, Brahman. We learned a little bit about Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, Chaturvida Lakshana of Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, its 10 eternal values. I covered the Gunatraya Viveka, including Varnashrama Dharma. Understood the broad classification in Varnashrama Dharma of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra, based on the guna and the karma, not janma karma vibhagasha. We talked about the 5 koshas, the pancha kosha viveka, annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha. We looked at 2 logic, how to transcend these 5 sheets. Atma anatma viveka, drug drishya viveka, madiyatvena gnatam atma na bhavati. That neti approach, the negation of what I am not, arriving at what further it cannot be negated. In summary, we have covered Gunatraya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, how to transcend the 3 bodies, Sharira Traya Viveka, Avastatraya Viveka. We understood that AAA is our problem, which is Advitiya Atma Agnanam. It is due to Adhyasa, which leads to Avidya, that leads to Ahankara. Because of that, we have covered the nature of the self in this module. Shastras say we are that of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Existence, consciousness, bliss. We learned 3 methodology, 3 pointers: Swarupa Lakshana, Tatastha Lakshana, and Atad Vyavritti Lakshana. Through Atma Anatma Vivechanam. Then I said, if the nature of that, our nature is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, I don't feel that way. I feel Parichinnatva. I feel limited. I feel finite. So then we discussed 3 types of limitation: Desha Paricheda, Kala Paricheda, Vastu Paricheda. We looked at Atma is devoid of Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Veda, Rahita. We discussed that through classic examples of the rope and snake, the ghost and the post. Then we entered the topic of Maya. Yamasa iti Maya, Trigunatmika Maya. It has 2 powers: Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. One which projects, hides the truth, and the projects what is unreal and which seems real. Agatita Gatana Samarthyam, to make impossible possible. Then we learnt about the 4-fold qualification: Viveka, Vairagya, Shama Adi Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. I called it the 4 Ds of Vedanta: differentiation, dispassion, 6 disciplines, and burning desire for liberation, Mumukshutva. Then we discussed in detail about Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, Mumukshutva, all the aspects of the 4 Ds. I also covered, once the student has obtained these qualifications, these 4-fold qualification, he approaches a guru. It is called Guru Upasatti or Guru Upasadana. Gu means ignorance. Ru is the one who removes that ignorance of our true nature. Guru is also given 2 qualifications that he must have: Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru. Faith in Guru and Shastra are an essential ingredient for a spiritual seeker. And the person who is liberated while living, we said he is a Jivan Mukta. Remember, to eliminate the feeling of finitude and limitedness, what we called as Pratibandha, the obstruction. Remember also, our goal is Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, Paramananda Prapti. And then we gave some thoughts from the last module. We said how to do this: negate our negative thoughts when they come, substitute with positivity, flood the mind with some creative ideas. This helps to negate the thought away from you, keep the negative thought away from your mind with positivity and creativity. Then the four-pronged approach: introspection, detecting diligently any negativity that comes, negating it ruthlessly, and substituting it wisely. Then we talked about other manashodhanam techniques, how to train our mind towards this. First, we need to find the mind, manashodhanam, bind the mind, mano nigraha, then concentrate the mind, chitta ekagrata. Once we develop all this, we need to give our mind a broader perspective, chitta vishalata. That is the mind we can negate. That chitta nirodha happens only when you have a broader scope. There is bahiranga sadhana, antaranga sadhana, yajna, dana, tapa, vrata, all these techniques we talked about, and japa, going through the same thought pattern, feeding it to the mind, sajatiya vritti pravaha. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, like that we go, one after the other, feeding it. And we will do a little Omkara in terms of symbolism today. So in meditation, you give it a thought massage to ease that posture and go through this type of silencing. Then I talked to you about three aspects of it, where with the puja, it's kind of riding a tricycle. You engage both body, all three: body, mind, and your speech. With the body, you worship the form of the Lord. With the speech, you do the japa on the name of the Lord. And with mind, you do the chintanam of the Lord. Like that, with japa, it is like riding a bicycle. You still need to balance and keep the mind focused towards the Lord. And in chintanam, it is a little more subtler, supported only by the mind. Riding a unicycle is the example I gave. Now, that is about the recap. I apologize for the long recap, but that was necessary to put the stage, because we have learned about Shruti and Smriti quite a bit before, and I wanted to cover a few aspects of Itihasa and Purana out of the Dharma Shastras. So in Hinduism, there are a few aspects that we learn. Two famous Itihasas are Ramayana and Mahabharata. Every household knows this. I don't have to tell you the story of Ramayana, but briefly to say, sage Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, presented Bhagavan Ramachandra as a perfect human being, Adarsha Purusha. Because our society, we always are looking for an ideal person. We all need a benchmark. In its simplest form, Ramayana is the story of the great noble prince. He was an ideal brother. Rama was an ideal son, an ideal disciple, an ideal husband, and an ideal king, and an ideal enemy as well. Ramayana is considered a Dharma Shastra, and Sri Ramachandra was considered an embodiment of Dharma. Even Maricha, a friend of Ravana, considers Rama as a perfect enemy. One time, Ravana is defeated in the battle. You know what Rama does? Lord Rama sends Ravana, sees that Ravana was very tired. So he tells him, go back to your palace, rest, come back to fight another day. This was the perfection of behavior that Rama had exhibited. You know, we have Tulsi Ramayana by Saint Goswami Tulsidas ji. It is also called as Ramacharita-manas. There is Adhyatma Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana, to name a few. From an Adhyatmic standpoint, Rama is considered Ananda Swarupa. That is our focus. The essence of joy, Sat Chit Ananda in our hearts. Ramanti iti Rama. Sita, Shanti Videha Sutta Sahacharini. The absolute peace wedded to our blissful nature. When that happens, we are in Ayodhya. There is no conflict there, no yuddha. This is where bliss and peace dwell together in our heart. Ramachandra also, Bhagavan Ramachandra, had to cross the ocean. In our case, the ocean of samsara, to kill Ravana. Vibhishana, Ravana, Kumbhakarna. What do they represent? Now that I have covered all these aspects in these modules, Vibhishana, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, they represent Sattva, Raja, Tamo, Guna within us. When it manifests through 5 Jnanendriyas, the organs of perception, and through 5 Karmendriyas, the organs of action, then we have let it outside. We have become Dasha Mukha. We cross this ocean of ignorance. We cross this ocean of delusion, moha, to destroy the enemies within us, the negativities within us, the raga and the dvesha, the likes and dislikes within us, the negativities within us, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara. All these are our rakshasas. Once these are removed, then there is absolute peace. Rama also represents the Gnana Swarupa. Sita represents bhakti, devotion. And Ravana represents in the Ramayana the ignorance and delusion, ego, pride, that can only be destroyed by Rama representing knowledge. He is the Gnana Swarupa. Lakshmana represents dispassion, vairagya. Bharata is the embodiment of love, Rama Prema. Shatrughna represents egoless service, Nishkama Karma. Our Hanumanji, he represents a lot of divine qualities of devotion, dedication, service, humility, knowledge. He represents that guru in our life. And monkeys represents various thoughts. They also represent our austerities, our sadhana, japa, charity, etc. So if we do this type of sadhana with the attitude of Krishnarpanamastu, dedicating it to the Lord, then we gain that Ramarajya, the kingdom of happiness within us, where there will be nothing but peace and prosperity. That is why it was called Ramarajya. The next topic, where Bhagavan Veda Vyasa Muni, he was the first person who codified the Vedas and formatted into 4 Vedas. He called upon his disciple Jaimini Maharshi to analyze the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. It's called as Purva Mimamsa or Karma Mimamsa. He wrote the Brahma Sutras to expound on the subject matter of the Upanishads. Still, Veda Vyasa Muni found that not too many people were eager to study and put forth this effort to understand the theme of the Vedas. So he goes to Brahmaji and tells him, I have written all this. I've given them Mahapuranas, I've given them this, I've given them the Brahma Sutra, but they're not putting any effort to realize. And Brahmaji tells him, why don't you write this in a story format? Thus the itihasa, thus it happened. That is what it means. The result of that was the composition of Mahabharata. He composed that for people of all ages, young, old, all classes of people, rich, poor, anybody, educated, uneducated, to understand the theme of the Vedas. And that is why it is called as Panchama Veda, the 5th Veda. Mahabharata has 100,000 verses. The underlying theme of Mahabharata is Yato Dharmaha Tato Jayaha. Where there is Dharma, there is victory. What does this indicate? It indicates the ultimate triumph of good over evil and establishment of righteousness. Dharma Samrakshana. It is interesting, in the Mahabharata, that these 100,000 verses are divided into 18 chapters called perverse. The Mahabharata war between Pandava army and the Kaurava army, it also had about 18 Akshohinis. It took place for 18 days. The Bhagavad Gita, which is right in the middle of Mahabharata, 25 to 41, has 18 adhyayas. The number of Mahapuranas Vedavyasa Muni wrote is also 18. So 18 in Sanskrit numerology, Katyapadi, the number 18 stands for Jaya, victory. This is what is said in the last verse of Bhagavad Gita 18-78. Says, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna Tat Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha Tatra Shrir Vijayor Bhutihi Dhuvani Tirmatir Mama. Wherever Arjuna, the archer accompanied by Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, there is victory, there is prosperity, divinity, there is nobility. Bhagavan Krishna gave this Gita Upadesha to Arjuna because he had that quality of Arjavam, that straightforwardness. Although Yudhishthira in Mahabharata was an embodiment of Dharma, but Bhagavan Krishna chose to give Upadesha to Arjuna because he was a straight shooter. That is where that expression, he was an archer, he was a straight shooter. That is where it has come from, I think. The allegory of that Ratha Kalpana is from Kathopanishad. This is about the inner war within us. Because for every good thought in our mind, there are 20 equal and opposite negative thoughts. Those representing Kauravas, the good thought representing Pandavas. And Bhagavan Krishna represents the discriminatory intellect to help us control the senses and win that inner battle of life. So in Mahabharata, Vedavyasa Muni brings forth all possible human emotions in its naked form. You can analyze each of the character, like Dhritarashtra, Dharmaraja, Arjuna, Bhishma, Dronacharya, Krupacharya, Kunti, Duryodhana, Dushyasana, Shakuni. We can learn from all these characters of what not to do. The Pandavas were good. They had their weaknesses. But the key thing was they were not wicked. There was no kutilata. Pandavas won the war because They were on the side of Dharma. They sought the help of the Lord. Bhagavan Krishna was on their side. He readily provided the right interpretation of Dharma to follow Paramadharma, and they followed his advice. That is the key. Then comes the topic of Puranas. So there is Shruti, Smruti, Itihasa, Purana. Puranas means old. Literal meaning is old, ancient. If you look at it from a dictionary definition standpoint, it means that. But Adi Shankaracharya ji says, Purana Nava Eva, that which is old but is ever new. That implies it is not affected by time. It is a timeless classic. That uniqueness to Puranas is that absolute reality, Brahman, which is the theme of the Vedas and the Upanishads. It is taught with many stories, metaphor, so that common people can understand through a story format. Pauranic stories you tell. Because Puranas are Shiksha Pradhana, education oriented. Education on what? On the theme of the Vedas. So Puranas focus on 5 aspects. First is Sarga, creation. Creation of the fundamental elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas, fundamental particles, from which all other things are made. Then comes Pratisarga, creation of variety of articles. In the example of a clay pot, clay is the sarga, the individual pot and many other things are the pratisarga, pot, pans, etc. Then the third topic is called the Manvantara. Manu. Manu is like the cosmic defense minister of religion. In the Hindu tradition, our time is divided into yugas, 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. We are in Kali Yuga right now. The 4 parts of the Yuga put together is called one Mahayuga. 1,000 of such Mahayugas is one day of Brahmaji. A long time. So in such one working day of Brahmaji, 14 Manus come in to fulfill their terms. They form their own cabinets, each of the Manu. When each Manu comes in during his term, there will be one Indra, there will be one Varuna, one Agni, Vayu, etc. And they will change between each of these Manvantara. Then we have the topic in Puranas. They have the topic of Vamsha, the lunar dynasty and the solar dynasty. The story of Rama, the story, all that comes in the solar dynasty. Then you have Vamsha Charita, the lives of individuals born in each of these dynasties. So the Puranas is another aspect of our Shastra. And there are 18 such Mahapuranas. To name a few, they are Brahma Purana, Vishnu Purana, Bhagavat Purana, Shiva Purana, like that. What happens with each of these Puranas? For example, if we are doing Vishnu Purana, the absolute reality, Brahman, is pointed out as Lord Vishnu. In Shiva Purana, Lord Shiva is pointed out as the absolute in Shiva Purana. In short, Puranas indicate the absolute reality Brahman in the form of stories and metaphors. Now, all this background information that we have gone through these 14 modules is so that we study Vedanta, the end portion of the Vedas, through a thorough study of what we call as a Prakarana Grantha. When we study texts like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha by Adi Shankaracharya, Viveka Chudamani, Advaita Makaranda, all this, what they do, they take a portion of the Shastras, a selected topic from the Shastra, and shed light on a few chosen topics. So the Prakarana Grantha is meant for those students who do not have time to go through the original text, Mula Grantha, and study in detail. So every text, when we start to study in Vedanta, it begins with an invocation prayer, Mangala Charana, a prayer commonly offered to Ishtadevata, prayer offered to the Guru, and in some cases to both Ishtadevata and the Guru. For example, in the Mangala Charana Shloka of the text of Viveka Chudamani, Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. In this invocation, Mangala Charana, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, in the text Viveka Chudamani, crown jewel of Vedanta Shastra, is offering salutations to Govinda, Lord Krishna, his Ishtadevata. And his guru's name is Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya ji. Look at the beauty of Adi Shankaracharya ji's poetic skill. In one word, Govindam, he has effectively offered salutation to both his guru and God, and thus indicating their oneness. So the main purpose of this Mangala Charana invocation is to remember the Guru and the Lord. Before we begin our study, to surrender the ego at the altar and to get their blessings in our work. Another thing to remember when we study a Prakarana Grantha or any Grantha for that matter, that there are 4 preliminary considerations. When we study a Prakarana Grantha, it is called as Anubandha Chatushtaya, 4 preliminary consideration. So I pick up the textbook and say, first is called as Adhikari. Who is the qualified student to study this text? Like, remember, I had told you, even in Adhikari, there is Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, Manda Adhikari. So who is that qualified student? Is he a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna? Not everybody is a fit student. The second topic is called Vishaya. What is the subject matter of the text that I am studying? Right up front, they tell you in the Mangala Charana Shloka or the invocation Shloka. Then the third aspect is Prayojana. Okay, I'm going to study this text. What is the result or phala of studying this text? Then I have Sambandha, the relationship between the text and the subject matter, the teacher and the taught, Bodhya Bodhaka Sambandha. Let's take one example. The Atma Bodha invocation shloka begins with Tapobhihi Kshina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshunam Apekshoyam Atma Bodho Vidiyate. Atma Bodha. In this shloka, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, he says, I am composing this text called Atma Bodha for those adhikaris, for those students. Who are the students? Who is the adhikari here? Kshina Papana. Those who have a pure heart. Shantanam. Those who are peaceful. Those who are calm. Vitaraginam. Those who have considerable amount of dispassions. Who are free from worldly craving. Mumukshunam. I've already defined in the Sadhana Chatushtaya module, who is a mumukshu? The one who has that burning desire for liberation. And that is the Vishaya, Atma Bodha, that book of self-knowledge, which teaches the essential oneness of Jiva and Brahma. Jiva Brahma Aikya. Once again, what is the purpose? Mumukshunam apekshoyam. For the purpose of seekers' liberation. So sambandha is bodhya bodhaka sambandha, between the teacher and the taught. So the four preliminary consideration, Anubandha Chatushtaya, is common to all Vedantic texts, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, or any Prakarana Grantha. So Atma Bodha Mangala Charana is Tapobhihi Kshina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshunam Apekshoyam Atma Bodho Vidiyate. Similarly, when we study the text Tattva Bodha, there is a Mangala Charana Shloka. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Gnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate. So now we have understood the entry into the Prakarana Grantha. I will take one sample of that in the next module and highlight a study. But in our symbolism topic today, I wanted to bring about, which is more appropriate, as to why do we chant Om? We will cover today the Omkara. Why do we chant it? Most of the Vedic mantras we chant and we start with Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha. All auspicious actions, they begin with the chanting of Om. It is one of the most chanted sound symbols. Om is that Pranava mantra. It is the primordial sound. The universal name of the Lord. A-U-Ma. Om. A representing the waking state. U representing the dream state. And Ma representing the deep sleep state. And the three states representing the three avasthas. And as we chant the silence between the two chants, the silence represented between these two chants is the fourth, the Turiya. That is the Om representation. That is representing the entire essence of Vedas. That which is symbolizing everything, the means and the goal. The form and the formless. So that is the symbolic representation of chanting that Om, and as you chant, go on increasing the silence or the interval between the two chants, and that is where you will find your peace. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everybody. Next week is the last of the series, so I'll see you at the same time next week. Hari Om.